Oh my goodness. The knowledge that you all shared was incredible.
Oh, I love the invigorating information and the mind-boggling content.
I just feel so much more prepared.
Doing the gap analysis, I just saw clear why we're not performing well.
This PPC mastery put a lot of things into perspective, what to do, what not to do.
I love that you showed case studies. You didn't just tell us that it worked.
It's exactly what I needed because I launched 3 weeks ago and I needed to know how to maintain my rank properly.
I look forward to just doing the work now.
I'm so blessed and grateful to have launched with that new strategy.
Recommend Titan to a friend, not even a question, man. Absolutely.
I will become a member. There's just no other way that's going to happen.
Don't wait.
There we go. Welcome to day 4 of Titan Team Building and Systems Challenge. We've got the amazing Athena Severi, Anna Silva, Andrew Erickson, Justin Dyson, Ed Holden, Jamie's in the house, Freddie's in the house, Ramon's in the house. Who else we got down there? Netta's in the house. Who else can I see?
Chris Rawlings. We got Tanisha. We have Stephanie. We have Freddie. Ramon. I don't know who we've said now. Anna. Awesome.
We have everyone. We have amazing people.
We even have Dan here, guys. Amazing.
Yeah, welcome to the call. I know there was a problem with our email system, so I literally just got the Zoom link out in the last 10 minutes or so. So if you are seeing this on Facebook, there is a post inside of the Facebook group with the Zoom link where you can come on and join us here inside of this room. Later at the end of today's session, we're going to be inviting those that are considering Titan to stay behind. And Athena and I have something very special for you that we want to reward you with for taking action this week and being a part of this amazing challenge. With that, how is everyone feeling as we enter into day 4? I saw a bunch of org charts being posted in the Facebook group yesterday. Lots of clarity coming through. So Richard's saying, great. Catherine saying, good morning, Tanisha. Good morning. Yeah, guys, let me know in the chat box. Let me know how you're feeling. Joe says, feeling good. Kevin saying, the sweat on my forehead is real. Totally get that. Hey, EJ. EJ's just jumped on as well. Awesome, guys. Yeah, Israel saying ready. So today we are going to be jumping into, now that we understand what the structure of our team should look like, the roles that they're filling, the functions that they're executing, and how we're going to effectively execute that plan to achieve our annual objectives. Now it's time to talk about, well, once you've found amazing people, and you've taken them through the hiring process that Chris walked you through yesterday, which is highly, highly efficient. How do we onboard them, set them up for success, measure performance, and then we'll also touch on what to do when that's not working out as it was requested yesterday. And that's really the whole conversation today. And it's this step that not only takes you from working in the business to on the business, but it's this process today and this system that we're going to take you through today that creates longevity in the business and turns your business into a machine that operates year after year after year and becomes that brain, as Chris talked about earlier this week, that produces solutions and results. But before we get there, a couple of things I want to call out. So if for Titans, big reminder on our accountability program. This is a great time to re-engage and commit to the Q1 accountability program under Matt, where you'll be grouped with 3 or 4 fellow Titan members. You'll meet once a week. You'll go through a 15, 20-minute agenda, and you will review your plans that you're executing. And holding yourself accountable to those around you that are going through the same journey, studies show, is 95% more likely to make you successful. You're 95% more likely to achieve your annual objectives if you hold yourself accountable to others. And the way we do that is inside of our Titan Productivity and Accountability Program, the TPA program, where you do that alongside fellow sellers who are going through the same journey as you. Go on, Athena.
Wait, Dan, I wanted to ask, okay, who here, let's say your accountability thing's on Tuesday, right? Who here Tuesday morning is like, oh my gosh, I didn't finish my thing and I need to hurry up because I have to show up to my thing and I'm like getting it done. Like, who here has actually had that happen? Because I just think it's so different. Just like if you, there you go. It's also like if you're at the gym and you've got a personal trainer looking at you and you're doing squats or whatever, like maybe if I was by myself, those squats would be like X amount, but when they're standing there, like, come on, give me another one. I'm like, damn it. So that accountability thing is so real.
So yeah, we launched the accountability program. I think it was 2 years ago now, or a year and a half ago, and the results are real, guys. Like we survey at the end of each quarter. So you start a new accountability phase every 3 months, every quarter, and the results that come through for those members that take part in the accountability program versus the members that don't, the results are night and day when you look at the ones progressing and moving. And we know this through our success coaches that interact with you, through our mentors, through our leaders, through the check-ins in the network, through the progress we can see through your tools. All of those data points show us that when you engage with accountability, you grow and move so much faster because you're executing your plan more consistently. And it's the consistency that really drives production. In addition, who here got their quarterly planner this last week? There you go. So for when you guys join Titan, you become members, we have these quarterly planners, which is our very own productivity planner that is designed every single quarter, is built to the system that we teach here in terms of, there you go, Andrew, to the system in terms of how your quarterly plan, you break that down into your quarterly planner. It has all of the annual e-commerce sort of significant dates built into it. Holidays that you should know about, seasonal items you should know about, themes like Halloween, etc., all built in here. And then you'll also see quotes from leaders like this one for Q. This one was actually Q1 this year, was Matt Phipps opening up here. So this is a full productivity planner with tips and guidance. It's even got a habit tracking built in, I believe, under our Titan Tough program. If you haven't had yours, go into the resource library inside the network, complete the form there, and we'll get these shipped out. We've just got Q1s ready, and that you should have just received your new productivity planner for Q1. So yeah, this works really well alongside everything we're going through this week. And if you're like me and you like writing things down, it cements it to memory. It kind of takes you away from all the digital noise that's going on. It's an absolutely amazing tool to reaching your goals, finding your focus, and building habits, as it says on the front of the label there. Well done, team. So yeah, productivity planner. If you haven't or don't know what that is, then go into the resource library. There's a link in there and we'll get you set up. We've just got them in the door. So make sure you're using that alongside your plan. Now, Justin, now it's time. Let's bring up and review some of the action items that were posted in the Facebook group yesterday.
Let's do it. Make sure I'm on the right share screen. All right. Is everyone looking at Facebook? Hopefully, yeah. I lost the chat. All right, sweet. So yesterday we went through creating a hiring brief, and the part of the action items for you guys was to actually talk about or tell us in the Facebook group who your next hire was going to be based on the current state of your business, the current state of your team. And I want to go through a few of the responses that we received from you guys and answer some of the questions around those. They were really good questions. And so I want to kind of dive in because it's really going to play into the conversation we have today about onboarding these hires. And obviously, how do we manage these people over time using a scorecard? So the first one here is from Jennifer Baker, and her question or her next hire is going to be either a SKU performance specialist or a VA. Now, when we look at Jennifer's org chart here, what we essentially see is she's already got, is it Haley or Hallie? I think I put Haley in my response to her, but we already see that she has the same person actually in this role, right? And so what I would recommend, right, in this particular case, what I would first do in this scenario is figure out, one, what is this person doing at the present moment as brand manager and as the SKU performance specialist in your business. So technically speaking, the brand manager is over all of SKU performance, PPC, product development, and product sourcing, right? That's a big role. There's a lot of things to check on, do, and as looking at scorecards, it's gonna be a huge part of making sure that everything is moving in the right direction. But my questions to her or to Jennifer on this regard were, one, maybe you don't need to hire an actual SKU performance specialist just yet. Perhaps the solution here is to really streamline what happens in this role, right? SKU performance really comes down to just running a revenue analysis and a profit analysis each and every month on your SKUs and then taking action against those. But if this person who's currently sitting at brand manager is already intimately familiar with your products, as they should be if they're the brand manager, then it might be better to actually hire a VA that can assist you with this role, and they can actually own one of these functions in a supporting role, as opposed to hiring a more expensive person, for example, that would sit in this role. So I think it's a great question. And really it comes down to what is the end result for this role, and can you streamline it currently to reduce, the level of type of hire that you need. So I thought this was a really good example and we're talking through. So as you guys are looking at your own org chart, before you go out and pull the trigger on hiring somebody, make sure that, hey, do we know what the process is for this particular role? So the next one I want to look at is Joe's. And I thought Joe Pay, what's up, Joe? Good to see you in Austin. So what I would say here, so Joe's first hire is going to be, or next hire, I should say, is going to be a social media manager. All right. Now, when I looked back at Joe's action items from, I think it was day 1 or day 2, where we were looking at, our overall metrics for the upcoming year or for the past year, and then setting targets for the upcoming year, what I noticed is Joe has an incredibly high gross profit. All right. It's kind of outside of the norm, but whenever your gross profit is really high, which means your cost of goods sold is really low, that means you have more money to spend on marketing. All right. That's really what it comes down to. The less money you spend on inventory and shipping, the more money you can spend on advertising, right? So if you're spending, if you're making $10 a unit, if you're selling a unit for $10 and you have to spend 5 of that just for the inventory, you only have $5 left. But in Joe's case, it's closer to, he sells something for $10 and he only has to spend like $2 to actually get it to Amazon. So he has a lot more, marketing dollars to spend. So in for his business, even though he's already surpassed, the $5 million mark, having a marketing manager and hiring somebody to really utilize social media and start running, traffic, external traffic outside of Amazon to his Amazon business, I think is a great idea, right? That ties everything back together with, okay, here's my numbers, here's my org chart. How can we look at both of these things, really understand what the data says, and make a decision on who's best to hire? And I think Joe exhibited that and did that expertly. Well done, Joe. All right, now the last one here, and I want to kind of prompt Dan and Chris on this, because there was several posts and several comments on each of those posts around hiring a PPC manager. This was obviously the role that most of you said you wanted to be your next hire. And while I agree, there's certainly a need in everyone's business to bring this person on, one of the biggest questions that comes up is it better to hire somebody who is in-house for the PPC manager role or a third-party agency? And I'll go first, and I'd love to hear Dan and Chris's take, and any of the other leaders on the call, is it really doesn't matter who you hire, whether they're in-house or third party. I think at some point in your business, it probably does make sense to bring it in-house as your brand gets big enough. But for the vast majority of sellers, it really doesn't matter if it's in-house or third party. And the reason being, or what I really want to kind of bring through here, and I'll let you guys kind of read along as I talk through this, no matter who it is, no matter if it's in-house or a third-party agency or even a VA, there has to be a feedback loop between you and that PPC manager, or your brand manager and that PPC manager, or your SKU performance specialist and that PPC manager. And the reason being, if we pull up the org chart here, let me move it over. Hold on, bear with me. All right, so when we look at this org chart, right, we see that our PPC manager sits right here, and their job is obviously to help you launch products through PPC. And then realistically, they're one of the biggest contributors to making sure that your contribution margin is where it needs to be. So there's a balance between pushing spend and also making sure there's enough profit left over so that we have a good contribution margin. But this person's role, the PPC manager's role, isn't necessarily going to be intimately familiar with every single one of your products, who your customer avatar is, and how your products actually serve that avatar. That's the job of your brand manager, okay? And your SKU performance specialist is also going to be intimately familiar with all of those things, because they're the ones looking at the data, they're looking at the keywords, they're looking at competitors. So no matter if your PPC manager is external or internal, The brand manager or the SKU performance specialist, or you, if no one is filling those roles, needs to be communicating with this PPC manager on a routine basis. You have to be able to tell that PPC manager when a keyword is relevant or irrelevant, right? They're looking at data in PPC. They're not looking at all of the data that your SKU performance specialist is looking at and then feeding back up to the brand manager. So the only thing I really wanted to call out here is hiring PPC out, whether it's internal or external, does not matter for the vast majority of you. However, you have to communicate with that PPC manager so that they are doing things according to your metrics and your brand and your products and your customer. You cannot delegate through abdication, which means you say, hey, I need you to do this thing. See ya. I'll talk to you next year whenever you don't get the results. Okay, that's not how we manage people. And as we go through the onboarding conversation today, I'm looking at scorecards. We're really going to show you how that plays out. But that's really just the key thing I wanted to explain here is
I could also step in. I think that, like, to put it in one sentence, when you hire somebody in-house, you onboard them. When you hire an agency, they onboard you. And what that means is if I really don't know what I'm doing in a domain, having a trusted agency that's been referred to me by someone that you know that they know what they're doing and they produce results can be a better route. If you know what you're doing in the domain and you need to hire someone great to take over that role because you don't have the capacity for it yourself, it's better to hire it in-house because you know how to onboard that person properly. That's usually the framework.
Yeah, I think there's regardless of whether it's internal or external, as Justin talks about, you have to take ownership over the integration of that with your wider business. The reason, and there's some amazing PPC agencies in the space that are very talented, but the reason that historically sometimes gets a bad rap is because there is no ownership from the brand manager or the owner or you as the CEO in the wider objectives of the business. So the agency goes off, or the PPC manager, not even just an agency, the PPC manager goes off on a tangent, managing down to ACOS, not considering the wider metrics in the business, i.e. tacos, organic rank, leading keywords. And I used to call it, and I saw this a lot in the early days until kind of everyone got wise to this. It's a death by 1,000 cuts, because whilst the metrics look amazing at a PPC level, or can do, depending on how it's manipulated, the business is slowly dying because PPC is killing organic rank. Because it's not supporting, the structure is not building and supporting towards a foundation of organic rank. So treating PPC as a silo is the mistake. The mistake isn't whether you hire internal or external. It's siloing the activity and then playing ignorant to its capability. You have to understand PPC to be able to effectively manage its relationship with the business. So you need to go through the Titan Way PPC framework. You need to truly understand the strategic levers that PPC pulls. You don't necessarily have to click the buttons yourself, and whether it's internal or external, it doesn't really matter, providing that you have those clean feedback loops in place and they're a part of the wider strategic conversation of the business, and it's not just being siloed out. I actually saw earlier in the group, I'm going to actually bring this up quickly if you stop sharing there, Justin, because I want to sort of remind members towards this. I actually saw it in the group earlier. If you look at my screen here, you should be able to see a post here. I love this post earlier today. So this was Matt. I don't know if Matt's on this call, but Matt's a Titan. And he said how he completed the PPC framework inside a Titan here. Never really understood it before, now gets it. And night and day results between October 30 and 30 results, taking his organic rank from 36% to 72 and his tacos from 20 down to 11 in 30 days by just implementing a PPC framework that's proven and consistently produces results. So whether it's external, internal, executing, it largely is irrelevant, providing you've properly integrated them. Not many people know this, but Ignite Titan, we actually offer a small PPC management service. We have very, very limited capacity, and we manage PPC for a few select members and do it the Titan way, but it has to be done in relation to their business. It has to be done as part of their team, which is super important. So I think, Justin, the question of internal, external is largely down to the integration of that activity and the ownership of the results, not playing ignorant to siloing it. And that's really the key, I think.
100%.
Oh, you on?
Can you hear me?
No, is that me or is that Justin?
It's
No,
you, Dan.
it's all good.
Oh, there you go. There you
All
go. You've come back. All the speakers turned off. So does that, guys, put in the chat box, does that kind of add clarity to that conversation? Because we know that's kind of a big sticking point, but it's not who, it's how it's integrated. Yeah, very clear.
I love
Makes
what
sense.
Ramon in the chat, one of our leaders, Ramon said, when hiring, you delegate the authority, but you still share the responsibility.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Cool. So Justin, Chris, let's get into today's session.
Cool.
First off, we are into scorecards, yeah?
We're going to start with onboarding and then get into
onboarding.
scorecards once we
Let's
learn
go.
how to get the person in. All right, cool. So let's rock and roll. I'm going to screen share and make sure that you guys can see my screen.
I think you need a radio intro from now on, Chris.
Or a catchphrase, maybe.
One and only.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You guys saw my
I need
little
someone to
quiz.
introduce me.
Nobody's gotten the full quiz. Everyone's gotten like 4 out of 5, but most of them knew that Dan says the one and only as the intro.
Everyone's the one and only, right?
Yes.
Most people got that right from what I saw.
Yeah, no one has gotten the location of the first Christmas party. No one. That's the only one that's been off. So anyway, that's a clue.
I know that. That would be Los Angeles.
Babe,
LA,
you
I
just
knew that
gave it
one too.
away. Alicia.
She can't help herself.
That,
All right,
you
let's-
had a
let's
Valley
rock
Girl
and roll,
moment
guys.
just now. Okay, bye.
All right, cool. So we're now near the end of the Titan Way operating system framework for this 5-day challenge. We're in these last 2 steps here, measuring success and hiring and onboarding. So we're going to get into today how to, since yesterday we figured out how to hire and find the right person, guarantee that they're the right person for the role. That's half the story. Today we're getting into the other half of the story, which is once that person's in the door, how do you make sure that they're properly onboarded and integrated into the company? And even for those of you guys who are doing your first hire or your second or third hire, this is equally as important as it is for somebody who's maybe even more so than for somebody who's doing their 50th hire. And again, to tell a little personal anecdote, I might have mentioned this yesterday, but so I mentioned yesterday that I've hired over 170 full-time roles. Dan has hired over 500 full-time roles. Between all of us, we've got thousands of full-time hires, not including contractors. I would say for me personally, over half of the roles were not properly onboarded. It's probably around 60% of them were not properly onboarded.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. So it's tough. And it's definitely a big learning process, but that's why we designed this system just for you guys, specifically for Amazon businesses, because we learned the hard way through not onboarding people properly and then just getting hammered for that. Like it really hurts when you find out 3, 4, 5 months down the line that somebody's not doing the right job or not doing the job properly. And it would have easily been fixed by a simple onboarding process that in reality, it only takes 1 to 3 hours to create this from scratch. Including all the supporting documentation, I would say I might push that to a day for the first time you make it. But then once you make it once, you can copy it over to a bunch of other roles. But that couple of hours pays off hundreds of times over from the productivity or the lack of productivity that person may or may not exhibit throughout their role at the company. And just like we mentioned yesterday, you could be one hire away from your dream company, your dream life. And that is something that I have personally experienced. So yeah, with all that said, I hope I've driven home the importance of this so that you guys listen and pay attention. But before I get into the actual mechanics of the onboarding, I wanted to share a little present with you guys, a gift. And this is from me personally to you guys. This is something that I learned when I was at 500 Startups, which was at the time that I was in it, it was the #2 top tech accelerator in the world, had a lower acceptance rate than Yale, Harvard, or Princeton by far. And I was lucky enough to get in through some social hacking. I definitely didn't deserve to be there, but I found my way in. And one of my mentors and advisors there taught me this framework. And since A lot of you guys are learning a lot of information during this 5-day challenge, and I'm seeing you guys execute, and it's awesome. But I can tell that sometimes overwhelm comes into play. And this framework that I'm drawing out here, drawing out very messily and not super well, but just stick with me, is one framework that I've used to make good decisions throughout the last 7 years since I learned this framework originally. So if you have a lot of things on your list and your list is just growing and growing, and there are different paths or different courses of action that you need to take, the way to determine what to do first is lay them all out like this. Draw a simple grid. Now, this could be all of the different ways that you want to expand your brand, or it could be all of the different ways you want to implement systems and processes like you're learning this week. You put all of the different paths down in the rows, and then you just create 3 simple columns. And I blocked off the first row here, ignore that. The columns are labeled risk, payoff, and resources needed. Each column you're going to actually rate or score on a 1 through 5 scale. So it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. So that means when it comes to risk, 1 is your riskiest, meaning you don't know if it's going to work or not. 5 is predictable. You're almost positive that it's going to work. When it comes to payoff, 1 is it's going to be a small payoff. Maybe you're expanding to Etsy. Okay, so yeah, you're pretty sure you could do it, but if you win, you get 2% more sales. 5 is a huge payoff. You're expanding into Walmart retail. It'd be gigantic and change your whole business if it worked. And then finally, resources needed. And the 2 main resources are time and money. 1 means it takes a lot of time, a lot of money to get this done. It's something you don't know how to do, and you'd have to learn a lot of stuff and spend a lot of money on it. And 5 is it wouldn't take much time or much money. As simple as that. You go through, score each one, add up the scores, and the highest scoring one you start with. And that's how you prioritize what to do next. So I wanted to share that with you guys. That is a gift that has helped me make good decisions that have saved me, actually, frankly, throughout the last 7 years of my entrepreneurial journey. So now let's get into this.
Chris, what's that analysis?
What's that, Justin?
What is that analysis called?
I actually don't know. I'm sure that it's somewhere out there on the internet. Yeah, I just learned it from a mentor that I really respected it. So yeah, right, I love it. So cool. Getting into onboarding. So like I said, I've actually had to pay the piper many times over for botching an onboarding. Or I mean, most of the time it was actually no onboarding. It's you're hired and then see you later and then check in like 2 months from now. So I'm sadly extremely guilty of this and have done this many times. And the pain of this is massive. It ends with lack of motivation, lack of alignment, and lack of clarity for that team member. And remember, this person, if it's a full-time role, they're spending all day, every day, trying to make your company successful. So it's like if you couldn't put in a couple hours work ahead of time to give them a proper onboarding, it's almost like a kick in the face. It's like, okay, you told me all these values, all these principles, all these dreams that the company lives by and aspires to, but I'm not seeing any of that in practice. But a great onboarding can turn that around completely. This is pretty binary. A great onboarding accelerates the time to produce the desired result for that role for the company. And this is another thing that I've seen in practice since I've fixed up my own internal onboarding processes and actually got really serious about this. So the good news is the onboarding that we're going to share with you guys as part of this operating framework has a very simple, easy to follow framework that you can implement that actually doesn't take much of your time when you're onboarding a new team member. Setting this up the first time takes you a little bit of time, but then once you set it up once, most of the onboarding is not even done by you. It's done by them because you set it up properly from the get-go so that they can actually walk themselves through it. And we're going to be walking you through this onboarding process in Asana, which is a project management software, but this could be built in other project management softwares like ClickUp, or what's the one with the tables, Airtable, whatever it's called. But we prefer Asana, and this is what we teach and we advise. But you could adapt this to any project management software. So keep that in mind. But we'll be walking through an Asana template of this. The key is it has to be in a project management software. And there are free versions of Asana that you can use. But it must be in a project management software, because otherwise you can't make this run by itself, essentially. Where if you run it in a project management software, you can run it and observe it and track it by itself without you having to be in there every day or every hour tracking this person's onboarding. So the major components of the onboarding are the team and company, the accesses, the theory and processes, shadowing and observation, and then the follow-up and testing. These 5 components make up a good and solid onboarding for any of the roles that we went over yesterday for how to hire. So we're going to be using the same example that we used yesterday, which is the PPC manager. And I'm going to walk you through what this actually looks like. You can see this GIF will be playing on the right-hand side for each of the components that we walk through. In the upper left, you could see a map of where we're at. So right now we're at team and company. And this GIF is showing what it looks like in Asana to have this framework made. So what you're going to do is pre-fill these components, introducing the company and culture, introducing the products and the pitch of the products, introducing the team members and calling them out in Slack. Slack is the internal communication tool that we recommend that you guys implement for teams. Walk through the team structure and organization, including the Titan Way operating system, once you've implemented this, and then invite the person to all relevant meetings. And you can see the way we set it up here in Asana, the person responsible for all this is actually not you. It says here HR executive, but that could be anybody. Most of this is set up so that either the recruit is running it themselves, or the person who was, if you remember yesterday, getting that top of funnel, getting all the applicants in, reviewing the applicants before the manager reviews them, that person, that could be a VA, it could be a partner, it could be another employee, somebody else besides you. And if it's just you, then it's fine if it's you. But this is basically made so that it could be run by anybody who simply has these accesses. They need to be able to create an account for somebody in your Slack, in your Asana. They need to be able to articulate the company and articulate the culture. And that should be documented based on what you had to do yesterday, which was create the company pitch. So all of these elements you preload into Asana, and for almost all of these, the way that you want to communicate it is through written, documented processes inside the tasks. And some of these can be written for you. Some of these you have to write yourself. Like you're the one that has to introduce your company and your culture. You're the one that has to introduce your products and your pitch. But the good thing is, like I was saying earlier, these are things you only have to do once. You do them once, and then every single person, it doesn't even matter what the role is. Everybody has to know what the company stands for and what the culture is and what products they sell and why their products are great. And then the introduction to the team members, that changes obviously as the team grows, but you just add them in. And then you're basically just listing out who everyone is and what each person does. This is such a simple step. And maybe some of you guys are saying, duh, but this is something that for the longest time I never did. For some reason, I assumed that because I knew all this stuff, they would know it, or they would just kind of figure it out over time. And they don't. They actually don't. You know, I've had people that I've hired that months down the line didn't have an understanding of the products that we sell, which is, it's mind-blowing, but that's the case. You know, it's not so obvious to people as you think it is, because you're inside the company. Everything's obvious to you. For an outsider, everything is new. So they're trying to learn it all at once. This gives them a step-by-step framework for what to focus on first. And what they do is you set a due date for each of these, and then you have the recruit, the new team member, check them off as they're done. And this process, all in all, can take anywhere between 2 weeks and a month, usually. You can squeeze it down to 1 week, or you can stretch it out to 2 months, but it's usually in the realm of 2 weeks to a month. Yeah. So we covered all that. Let's get on to the next step, which is accesses. So this is where we talk a little bit about risk management. So in the early days of every company, when there's just 1 or 2 or 3 people, there's no like security protocols in place. And I'm of the opinion that that's actually okay in the beginning when you're just kind of sharing logins and stuff like that. You have to move fast. You have to be lean. So you and a partner, you know, sharing some logins to some tools is not really that big a deal. As your team grows, it actually becomes really, really important for you to put in place some kind of security and have protocols for security. And when people are sent their own designated user invite to a platform, and when they act, it is in fact safe for them to share access or share logins to a platform. The key is to think about it up front. And this is where that gets codified. So now you could see when I scroll down to the accesses section of this project in Asana, I can see the person responsible for sending company platform invites. That includes Gmail, Slack, in our case, Asana, any tools that you use for the company. That again is the HR executive's duty to do that. And then sharing any shared account logins. This can be safe as long as there's no financial data in there or any kind of sensitive data. If it's something just like a simple little tool and it's shared amongst a couple of people, that's no big deal. But the key is that you say it up front and you make it clear to them. The last thing is every person should have a password on their computer and a password on their phone. Otherwise, if their computer gets stolen or their phone gets stolen, your entire Amazon account gets hacked, and then all of your units get shipped to some random warehouse in Ohio, and then you never see them again. So that's never fun. And I know plenty of people since I started selling myself in 2015 that things like this have happened to. So this isn't a sexy topic, but it's so key, and it'll save.
I think it's Chris, just to jump in on this. It's a really important topic. So we use across our org, we're using OnePass. I think there's LastPass. There's these password management for these tools, and then specifically to Seller Central, very few people have access to the root user, to the admin user. What we do is we'll set up cs@brandname.com, and then so we'll create kind of team departmental emails, and then we'll create sub-users for Seller Central with the correct permissions for those that need to access an account for a certain function. But really, it's only me and maybe 3 other individuals that have admin access to Seller Central, and then that goes the same across, obviously, QuickBooks. It's only my finance people, and any other sort of sensitive data. It's a need to know, need to access basis, and it just is it's a protection measure for the business. And I don't want to scare people with this stuff, of course, but it just gives you the peace of mind knowing that you've got that set up. And then as Ramon's saying there, have 2-factor authentication turned on most of those accounts. But I think, I didn't know you were going to include this, and it's a really important point.
Yeah, totally.
I was just saying, for those of you that are, smaller businesses and things like that, where you can set up a sub-user account. Right. Instead of sharing your login to anything, if 100%. The platform that you're using allows sub-users, always go that route. Right. It protects your passwords, and you as the admin will maintain control over any financial visibility and things like that. But, using things like OnePass and LastPass, those security platforms actually allow you. So like in the event, someone's laptop does get stolen or somebody leaves and they've gone, Looney Tunes or whatever, you can quickly go into those platforms, turn off their access to everything, and then change their passwords to everything because you're the admin. So even if they've saved the password to their computer or whatever, and even though that password is no longer hidden in LastPass, which unfortunately is a hack around it, you can still change everything quickly by having that documented. So it's not as difficult as it sounds. I would simply use LastPass or OnePass, and it just makes things so much easier. And as always, use a sub-user account for any of your team, as opposed to sharing your own.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. That should put people at ease, because I think I remember from yesterday, some people had the reservation that, well, I don't trust hiring somebody. I don't trust somebody with my account. The main things that you really have to worry about are bank account access and Amazon account access. There are other sensitive accounts, but like if you're sharing, some analysis tool, there's a limited amount of damage that could be done if that account gets out. You could be booted off the platform, or they could upgrade your account and you pay a couple $100 or something like that. But the things that could ruin your business are bank account and Amazon account, and those things you can give secondary user access to. I mean, I think Justin and Dan, you guys are in the same boat as me. I mean, I've had a personal assistant for a better part of a decade now, just about a decade, and they have access to all kinds of things. I mean, they can make purchases for me. They have copies of my passport and stuff like that. And I've just been very careful to delegate access and put limits on things. But that's the work that you do up front that gives you the freedom to be able to hire people that can.
It also gets around all the Seller Central stuff. I mean, it doesn't happen as much anymore, but back in the day, different browsers, different IP addresses, it was the fastest way of getting an account suspended. It's less important nowadays, but still does happen. So it's just a good way once you start building a team. If you've got Philippine IP addresses, Europe IP addresses, US IP addresses, all accessing the same admin account, fastest way to get the account flagged. So just always stick to sub users. The only thing you need the root access for is API connections and financial update. That's the only thing you need them for. Beyond that, the sub users can do everything.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Dan. Yeah, and that can keep you from getting flagged if you do things right. The other thing this does is it leaves a trail. So now you know what accounts this person has been given access to. So later on, if you ever need to offboard them or fire them, you know exactly what accounts you need to worry about, either changing the password for or cutting off. And we're going to cover that as well today. So with that said, let's move on to the third element, which is theory and processes. So this is a review of basically all of the company's theory and processes in their domain. This is things that they need to specialize in. So for a PPC manager, a lot of it has to do with PPC theory, but it also has to do with if there's any science relating to your company that they need to be a specialist in. If you're making, say, like porta potties for little kids, and everybody in the company needs to know everything about like little kid potty training, that should be part of this. Everything that has to do with the theory, the philosophy, the knowledge base that is common across all people should be in here to keep everyone on the same page. And then this is also where the meat and potatoes of the actual role comes in. So this is where you put in all trainings, all videos, both ones that you record yourself and external. For those of you guys that are just throwing this together and you don't have time to record hours and hours of Looms, you just do the best that you can with a broad overview on a Loom. Loom, by the way, for those of you guys that don't know, is a simple software that has a free version that allows you to make screen recorded videos and post them as links or embedded videos. It's a super powerful tool. It avoids a bunch of meetings, and it's one of the best ways that you can enhance these onboardings is through pre-recorded screen recorded videos. So Loom or any similar screen recording software you should use to, first of all, record all of the company's theory and processes and philosophy. But then after that, just use external links. So any thought leaders that you follow, any groups that you follow, you can put links to them inside this section. And this is really a big part of the real meaty part of the onboarding. It's where they learn the stuff that they really need to know. And this is the part that's most custom to the role. But again, once you do it, at least for a role, you never have to do it for that role again, because you have this built out and you just create a copy of this template and you assign it to that person. And you could see we've gone from the HR manager doing the tasks to now it's actually the recruit themselves. So on the right-hand side, you could see who it is that's doing the onboarding there. This is all stuff that's actually done by the recruit. And the example that you're seeing here is, again, the example for the PPC manager. This should include the current state of that area of the company. And this is where you're kind of raw and real. You tell them what's broken. You say, look, this is the ideal scenario. We want to be here. We follow these thought leaders that have already figured it out, but internally we have not figured it out yet. This is broken. That's broken. We don't have proper portfolio management. Our campaigns are named all different names. Whatever issues you guys have where we're not focusing enough of our ad spend on ranking campaigns, lay out all the skeletons in the closet here, because now they know what problems they can work on, what things that are valuable to the business for them to actually solve. So this is what really gets them working. And it's the first part of the onboarding process that they really have to do. And then by the end, there should be, for every element from this point forward, every section in the onboarding should include some back and forth. So if they have to watch a training, for example, and it's a link to an external training or a video that you like, they should have to come back and write a summary of that. If they had to review your campaigns inside Seller Central as part of this, they should come back and write the observations and their suggested changes. And all of that gets recorded inside this Asana project. So now you have one place where you're recording everything about the onboarding and the first few weeks and months of this person's role, which is super valuable, both throughout the onboarding process and also after the onboarding process. A lot of times for us, we continue to reference this Asana project for months afterwards because it becomes like this sort of central repository. But whether it's just summaries or it's you're requesting a Loom video from them or you're creating little Google Forms for them, there should be something relating to testing that they actually did it. They should have to come back. They don't just check it off the list. In order to check it off the list, they have to put a summary of it or a questionnaire or something proving that they did it. All right, then the fourth element is shadowing and observation. This is what I would call the most powerful part of the onboarding. And this is what I think a lot of sellers miss, because it's like monkey see, monkey do. You could read all you want. You could read all the books, watch all the videos you want. But the best way to learn is through mentorship and through actually doing it. So shadowing is when the candidate watches you or an expert or their manager, whoever's going to manage them, and they watch you work. Observation is the opposite of that, where you watch them. Whether it's shadowing or observation, the key element here is that it doesn't have to be like a walkthrough, like a tutorial. You don't have to be explaining everything you do. They're literally just watching you work. And you should set the frame in the beginning where you can ask questions anytime you want. Some of this can be pre-recorded in Loom, but there should be at least some element of it that's live, because this opens the door for questions, clarifications, misunderstandings, and all of that. So during this, whoever is the person that's working is just working, and they're just doing their own thing. You can narrate little things if you want, but it's not necessary. They're just watching you work. You're screen sharing on Loom while you do the work of that thing. And then the person who is watching is taking notes and then interrupting and asking questions when necessary. And then at the end, so if you're shadowing them, if they're shadowing you work, they're taking little notes of things that they learned along the way and questions that they wanted to ask. And then they have a document at the end of that shadowing session. If you're observing them, once they actually know how to do the job, you're taking little notes as they're working and catching things that they didn't catch, providing them feedback, and also recognizing them for things that they did well. And then you provide them those notes at the end. So this is the one that I think scares people because it's kind of like intimate, but that's why it's the most powerful. This is a super duper powerful framework for getting someone to quickly understand something. And I would recommend the first couple of shadowing sessions can be asynchronous via a pre-recorded Loom video. And again, that's scalable to any future time that you need to teach that same thing to anybody else throughout the future of your business. But there should be at least one session that's shadowing in one direction and at least one session that's observation in the other direction. And you set that expectation in the beginning. Cool. All right. So now we're on to the fifth and final section of a proper epic onboarding. And this is the follow-up and testing. So this is the part that, if you could see as I scroll down here in this little GIF, there's a lot of these elements that are actually assigned to the manager or even colleagues. You can assign more of these to colleagues that are not necessarily managers. They're just other team members. And that can be a powerful thing. But this is where the manager really steps in. So it's only now that the manager themselves or you, the business owner, is really reviewing all the prior steps and all the work that was done before. And this has to include a one-on-one call. So you're reviewing all the steps in this Asana project or in the project management project that you're in. Then you are scheduling a one-on-one with a colleague, scheduling a one-on-one with the manager, and then running tests. And again, this could be similar to before. This should be something that tests a smattering of different elements from the different sections of the onboarding. So you can either do this through a simple Google form, or you can leave it open-ended and ask them to write a document summarizing like everything that they learned in each of the sections, or recording a Loom. But there should be something that comes back. We have our own frameworks in here that we'll share with you guys. And then finally, ongoing training and education. So this is the part where you tell them, this is what you have to keep learning over time. You know, what you learned, what you know about PPC now might not be relevant 6 months from now, because Amazon might have come out with a whole new form of advertising then. So these are the domains that we want you to continue to educate yourself in as time goes on. And this is really important. Again, these Asana projects, sometimes the candidate ends up kind of living in here for a really long time, because it becomes a central repository for everything they learned and everything they do. And it's really powerful that way. So that wraps up the onboarding. This is what it looks like all in all. If you scroll all through it, and you could see there are 3 main roles in here. There's the HR person, the recruit themselves, and the manager. The fourth, like, optional one is just another colleague or another person to kind of be an onboarding buddy or helper. But yeah, so that's it. And now we can get into offboarding. And I'm gonna
let's just pause a minute, Chris. Let's just pause
sure.
and take some feedback and some interaction here. Do you see how once you really lay out the steps you want that new team member to take, it's a case of laying out their plan and their roadmap for them in front of them, and then checking on have they executed it with interaction, review points, milestones. And one thing I'll also do in this process is, if I know that there's someone very specific that will accelerate that process for them, that they're going to be working alongside or under, as Chris said there, include them in the process as a buddy to take through them, and hold the person, let them know that you're going to do it, let their colleague know, or the team member know that they're in charge or they're responsible for ensuring the success of this onboarding, and let them know that you're going to be expecting a certain result by a certain time as well. So yeah, this works really, really well. It's just essentially giving them a paint by numbers plan of how to get into the company, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. If you set this up properly from the get-go, they really can't fuck it up. I mean, you can't, as long as you're checking it off, like there's no not doing it right if you do it from the get-go. So,
right. And what have we got for them, Chris, in the handouts around this?
So we're going to be giving them the importable version of the Asana template for the onboarding of the PPC manager. So
there
you'll have that.
Guys.
You can adapt that to pretty much any role.
Sweet. So Joe saying yes, Mika saying yay, Richard saying cool, awesome. And you can see where in Titan we're going with this. Our vision for this is building out complete projects in Asana, templates, etc. As we push forward. And then Andrew saying on Asana you can use it free, and you get, the majority of businesses do not need to upgrade and pay for Asana. The free version is plenty for this level of management.
Totally. Yeah, Asana gives a shocking amount away for free, actually.
Yeah, they really do. Cool.
Yeah, and then you can actually, so I can get into offboarding, Dan, if we want to go there.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and then a little tip here is you can actually save these projects as a template, and then it makes it way easier for you to just create new projects from that template and know which thing needs to be edited when you need to edit it over time. So this is what you're going to want to do when you download or import the version that we're giving you guys as a handout today. Cool. All right, so getting into offboarding, otherwise known as firing. Does anyone recognize where this GIF is from? You get super extra Chris brownie points if you know what this GIF is from.
I know.
Die Hard, is it?
No.
It's not.
I know. No. Can I say?
Yeah, go on.
No, don't say it yet, Alicia. I want to see if anybody in the chat knows. All right, Michael said it. All right, you can say it now.
Yes, The Fifth Element. I love that movie.
Yes, this is The Fifth Element. One of the best scenes. When this Chinese food guy tells him, like, I guarantee your mail's going to have good news in it. I bet you lunch. and then he opens it and he just goes, "You're fired." It's one of my favorite scenes. So yeah, it put crudely, how to fire people. We're going to go over that. So these are the basic steps, guys. And this is a really fucking hard one for me because I'm a sensitive guy. Dan is also a sensitive guy. I know this is hard for him too. Like you mentioned, Dan, yesterday that you cried after firing one of the. I've shed many a tear from having to fire people that I love. Firing people that you hate is way easier, but even that's not easy, especially if you're sensitive. So these are the things that, again, I've learned the hard way. We've all learned the hard way. Dan's learned the hard way as well. Justin himself as well. These are the steps to make this happen well. So the most important thing is the conversation. The key to having the conversation with this person is you schedule it ahead of time, put it on the calendar. It's just a one-on-one meeting. You don't have to say what it's about or anything like that, but you both show up at that time and you have to pre-plan this. I'm going to explain exactly how. But the key here is no pussyfooting around here. The first thing you should say is, I'm going to get right to it. I have to let you go. Those should be basically after, "Hey, what's up? Can you hear me okay? How you doing? How's your day?" Is fine. But you shouldn't be messing around with like getting into conversation. Just get right to it and just say, you could say exactly these words. This is what I say. I'm going to get right to it. I got to let you go. You let them have their reaction and their experience. Many times it's emotional. I've had a lot of people like cry right at this point and immediately break down. Some people have angry reactions. It's a little mini trauma for them. You have to allow them to go through their process and be there to kind of take that heat. One of the things that I put down further on the list here that I'm going to mention at this point is real leaders take arrows. This is something that I've learned personally many times over, is that firing people is taking an arrow. If somebody needs to be fired in the company, delegating the job of firing it to somebody else is really a weak move. It actually shows strength and allows the rest of your team to respect you more. The fact that you went and you did this yourself, even if it was somebody who was under somebody else and it should have been them. If you take that arrow for the team, it shows strength. Now, a lot of times you want the manager to have the experience of firing somebody because then it helps other people respect them. But the point is, take the arrow. Don't do it via a Slack message. Don't do it via text. Be a man, be a woman. Stand up and have the conversation with them directly face to face. This shows strength, and it also ends up with a better outcome most of the time. During this conversation, after you say that, you let them have their experience. You elicit feedback from them. However, you make it clear that it's not a conversation. A lot of times they're going to try to tell you what they would do, what they want to do better, why they don't have to go, and it was just a misunderstanding, blah, blah, blah. By the time you got on this call, you should be 100% convinced that this person is going to be fired, and you should not be convinced otherwise, no matter what they say. If they say, "Oh, so-and-so is talking bad about me," no, that's not really true. Doesn't matter. Decision's already been made. You may be right about that. You may not. I don't know. But the decision is made. I'm sorry, this is not a conversation. However, I would like to get feedback from you. And this is really critical because once somebody's fired, they're going to tell you raw. They're going to tell you the real shit right to your face. And it's actually extremely valuable if you're strong enough to take it, because they're going to give it to you raw. You just gave it to them. They're going to give it to you right back. So now it's your job to just sit back and listen. And every time they might be spitting fire, but every time they have anything to say, you just receive it and write anything down that's valuable. Anything that's not, or it's just emotional, you just let it pass. There's no argument here. There's no conversation. This is just simply them getting fired, you giving them the chance to give feedback. And that's it. That's the entire conversation. The only other thing, everything else happens behind the scenes, which I'm about to describe. But the only other thing that happens in this conversation is you'll tell them any severance, or as Dan likes to call it, gardening leave. The standard in our industry in Amazon is 1 month. There are other industries where they'll give 6 months or 3 months or no months or whatever. Our industry standard is 1 month. That's just how it is. Maybe you guys can make up your own rules. It's completely up to you, but just to give you a benchmark. So what's happening in the background here? The standard is, and this can vary role to role, but the standard procedure should be you have somebody during the conversation revoking their access to everything. This seems a little raw. It seems a little harsh, but that's just the way it has to go. It has to happen sometime. And this keeps any nefariousness or hard feelings from finding their way into hurting your business. So you should have somebody, either your VA or your partner or somebody, where you say, hey, look, I'm going to have this conversation at 11 a.m. on Thursday. I want you to revoke their access at 11 a.m. on Thursday on the dot. That's when I'm having the conversation. I want this all to happen live. This is how we do it. And sometimes you can't do it this way, or it's not necessary to do it this way, but this should be the standard. There are some times where you really trust the person. You absolutely know maybe they already know that they're not right for the role. And like the conversation was just kind of sealing it, and you really trust them, and they actually need to offboard some of the things that they do and still need access. Then in that case, you can allow them to have limited access and transfer some of their duties over. But most of the time, it just makes the most sense, and it's the safest for the business to revoke all accesses. And again, this is where having a proper onboarding process comes into play, because if you've done that well, now you know all of the accesses that they have because it's all documented in that Asana project. So that happens. Then afterwards, there's the reassigning of duties. Well, so this should be planned ahead of time. You're reassigning all duties that they have, all the domains of responsibility. And the thing to do for this is you pull up their role doc. Now you guys can see how all of this is connected. The onboarding, the role docs, the hiring, the offboarding, everything is connected. You're going to pull up their role doc, go through each and every KPI and each and every domain of agency and responsibility, and make sure that there's somebody who's going to take that. Whether it's you temporarily until you find a new person, or it's somebody else, you go through each and every one and reassign. Then you take the feedback that they gave you, which many times is really valuable and really raw because they weren't holding back, and you provide it to the team. You have to package it up in a good way, but you can tell your partner, tell the other leaders in your company, tell the other people in your company the feedback. Feedback about culture, feedback about issues with the company, reasons why they felt they couldn't succeed in the role. That's all going to come out, and you should be providing that as feedback to the team. All right, and then lastly, this is another one that I shamefully have messed up many times, and I'm honestly, this one I feel really bad about, because I've gotten this feedback from my team too many times, and it really breaks my heart, where people say, when we fire people, not that we're firing people left and right, but when we fire people, it seems like they disappear, and it's never mentioned and never acknowledged. And we feel like if we were fired, we would just disappear, and it's a bad feeling. And they're right. The strong thing to do, the power move to do here, and the good leader thing to do is acknowledge it with the rest of the team. And this could be in an all hands meeting, or it can be in your next weekly strategy meeting, or at the very least in Slack, where you say, we let this person go. These are the reasons why we let them go. We have absolutely no hard feelings against this person. We wish them well. Nobody else is on the chopping block, just so you know, you're all safe. Your jobs are safe. We're not firing a bunch of people. We just had to let this person go because they didn't fit our culture, or they weren't taking feedback, or whatever the core reason was. You just acknowledge it to the team, and that makes everyone feel so much better than if they just disappear and you avoid the subject, which I shamefully have done that myself before. So don't make the same mistake.
And I think I just layer a couple of pieces over this. So depending on where the person is lived and how you've employed them, there are certain obviously laws, like UK employment law is a lot more stringent than US.
True.
European, certain states in the US. So make sure that you're operating within the legal guidelines of fair dismissal. You don't want to end up in tribunals and things like that, which rarely ever happens. Another thing I'm a big believer in as well is, before I get to this step, I'll performance manage the person. So if I'm not happy with the results, or I believe that someone's not a good team fit, and we have clear examples of why, before getting to this stage, with what you're going to learn next, which is scorecards, I will meet with that person, or the line manager will meet with that person, and do a 360 review, a 360 conversation of where do they believe they're excelling, where do they believe they're their weaknesses are and maybe they could improve. Then you give your feedback to them and you set a plan with milestones of expected results. So I'm a big believer in investing in people, and I'm a big believer in benefit the doubt, but also taking my responsibility of leading the business very seriously. I'll set very clear guidelines of, okay, right now, this isn't where we need it to be. You're not communicating effectively, or this result isn't being achieved, and here's the evidence of that. We're going to set a plan together here for the next 30 days where we need to see strong improvement in these areas. Otherwise, we'll need to review that activity. So you kind of giving them that benefit of the doubt. If you know someone's just not a good fit and you've onboarded and it's just not working out, they're still in their probation period. We typically do 90-day probation periods or trial periods. Then, okay, with those scenarios, typically you're just, what's the old saying about hire fast, fire fast,
slow, fire fast.
That's it. Yeah. So you get to that and you make that decision quickly. But if it's someone that's been in the company 6 months, a year, maybe even longer, and something's changed, this is where you really need to know what's going on in the background. Give them that kind of ability to improve, set very clear, concise targets. And if they don't meet them, they can't blame anyone but themselves. Another thing that I've learned in recent years, and it's only in the last couple of years I've been doing this, sometimes in the past, I'd attempt to let them down softly. Now I'm very honest over why this decision has been made and what actions they took or didn't take that ended up in today's situation. And the reason I do that is I believe it sets them up for success in the future. I believe if they're a person that's going to grow from this experience, they'll take that knowledge on board. And in the next chapter of their journey, hopefully it will empower them to improve in those areas, from my opinion. So I'm always very honest. I don't sugarcoat it anymore. And I don't avoid the conversation. I tell them very directly why we are where we are today and why I believe it's happened and what I believe they can do to improve in the future. So I hope that helps.
I totally agree with that. That's the power move.
So,
yeah, and whether or not they take that is up to them. But
Yeah.
at least you did your job delivering it.
Exactly. So we now know how to successfully onboard. We know how to successfully offboard. Now let's talk about measuring success. And while this is coming up here, how's everyone feeling about this? Is it giving you more confidence in the process of, one, going and finding people, but two, bringing them on into your organization? So Israel saying for sure. Yeah, Joe saying mind blown, awesome, every day. Amazing. That's really good to hear, guys. So now we're going to get into some numbers. Stick with us here, guys. When you're in Titan, you'll be given access to this entire resource. And with this challenge, we do have the PPC process that Chris just walked through for the PPC manager. And Justin's going to take you through this scorecarding process. So Justin, over to you.
All right. So switching gears, we're going to transition from, okay, we've hired somebody, we've onboarded somebody, and now we need to measure the success for their role. And I think almost more importantly, not just when you're, onboarding someone or even offboarding someone, yes, the scorecards come into play there, but these scorecards are how you're supposed to manage your business, right? If you don't know your numbers, you're going to be guessing and you're going to be hoping and wishing that things are getting done the way you want them to. So we're looking at the org chart. The reason we're looking at this is because we have created essentially a scorecard for every role on here. So all 16 of these roles have a scorecard. And if you're in the network, you're going to get access to all of these. There's also scorecards for your meetings. There's also scorecards for you as the owner. So scorecards show up in a bunch of different ways and for very different reasons. And so I want to kind of walk through what those are very quickly. And then I want to go through one that I think you guys will get the most benefit from. So when we talk about our meeting agendas, right? Pretty straightforward. We're meeting with a team daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. And as part of that, you need to come prepared with numbers. The easiest way to do this is on your daily stand-up meeting, simply input the numbers you're going to use on all of the other meetings, right? And if you create a scorecard for this, which is what you're looking at right now, every day on your daily stand-up meeting, your operations manager or your VA goes in, they put in the units sold, revenue, PPC spend, number of SKUs you guys have, and then basically the number of staff. Now, the staff is probably going to be limited to whoever our manager is, but this will show up, right? And you're going to see how this ends up being used in other scorecards and in other areas of the business. So this is an incredibly simple scorecard. Andrew Erickson helped me make this actually to make it work with pivot tables because I did not know how to do that. But if you were to do this daily on your weekly meeting, you can automatically get the weekly summary. On your monthly meeting, you can automatically get the monthly summary, and same with quarterly. So it becomes very straightforward, very simple. So this is an example of, you know, a scorecard you use on your meetings with your team. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. Okay, there's not a lot of nuance here other than like, hey, these are the numbers, right? As Sam always says in our meetings here internally at Titan. So this isn't really what I want to share with you guys specifically, but I want you to understand that different meetings call for different types of scorecards, and different decisions in your business call for different types of scorecards. So this one is primarily for your company meetings. Now, I'm not going to go through this one in great detail either, but this is the owner scorecard. You as the owner of your business have access to every data point that exists in your business. Those should not be shared with every member of your team. So you should also have a scorecard for yourself as the owner to help you make decisions. These are going to pull data from your P&L, right? If you're trying to lower your contribution margin, or I'm sorry, increase your contribution margin, you need to know what numbers are pulling against that. You may not want to share certain things with your team. So having an owner scorecard like this that just summarizes things for the month is a great way to do that. And what you'll see actually on this particular scorecard is it basically sums up the entire 5 core pillars along with just who your team is, right? You can get a feel looking at these numbers of how well your business is performing just by what's listed here. All right. I know it looks like a lot, but in reality, it's not. And a lot of this data actually comes from the various other scorecards that we can show you. So let's dive into like the meat and potatoes here, like the ones that's actually useful and fun for everyone to learn about. So when we go back to the org chart, this scorecard that we're about to look at is for the entire brand management department. Okay. Every tab on that scorecard represents somebody in each of these roles, right? So when we're looking at this, there's a few things we need to take from this. We have a summary tab, and then you're going to see we have tabs for each individual role or function within a business, right? And some of these are actually broken down into more components because the data is just so immense. All right. Now, the one thing I want you to take from this is every member of your team should have something that they are using for their role to help them do a good job. Right? This is a very simplistic version, but for somebody who's in the new product development role, they need to know where the products are in that product development phase, what status they're in, when they're ready, and ultimately when those products become order ready, right? The ultimate success for that person's role is getting products to order ready and ultimately purchase, right? They need a scorecard and a tracker for making sure that happens. You can include things like samples, etc. Now, this applies to every role, right? Every role you're going to see, and again, we're not going through the metrics in each of these. It's not the point. The point is to simply notice every role, every function has a scorecard. But what do you do with it? All right. Your job as the owner of your company is not to go in to the PPC manager scorecard or go into the product sourcing agent's scorecard. Your job is to look at a summary of the ultimate or the metrics that actually show you what ultimate success looks like in those roles. All right, you should be making decisions on these metrics. All right, so this is the one I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail. All right, so this summary tab, this is what the brand manager would ideally look at. Okay, for the vast majority of you, you're most likely the brand manager or speaking very closely with this person, right? So as the brand manager, this is the scorecard that you would look at to assess how everyone's performing underneath you. And you as the CEO or integrator, you would also look at this as needed to make those decisions. So let's kind of break it down, right? So we know that the brand management department is primarily focused on product success on Amazon. It's developing products, launching products, and optimizing products and managing PPC. That is essentially what is involved here. So when we look at the actual PPC manager's scorecard, there's a lot more metrics, right? And everything's broken down by ASIN, and it's this giant, hairy scorecard. You do not waste your time looking at this stuff. When we look at the summary here, we can find out very quickly how well things are performing. We're looking at ad spend, PPC sales, ACOS, your total sales, right? Which is just for that entire week, which is how this is broken down. You can get the breakdown of organic sales, true ACOS, and the rest of these metrics are just pertaining to PPC, right? So all of these things, if you were to look at this data on a trend line, so week over week over week over week, you can start to understand how the decisions you made in quarterly planning, monthly planning, and your weekly commitments is showing up for the PPC manager and their role. Okay. If you look at these numbers and you see that your total or your true ACOS or tacos, whatever you want to call it, is trending further away from what your actual tacos target is for your company, whatever decision the PPC manager made or whatever decision you told them to make is failing. That is not going the direction that it's supposed to. All right. So that's how we're looking at the data and using it to make decisions. Now, one thing you also have to keep in mind, your job as the brand owner or as a brand manager is not just on one area of the business. PPC is not a silo. PPC is impacted by quite a few other things. So it's important to see more than just PPC metrics here. And that's why we're also going to include things like product development, product launching, and SKU performance. Okay. So when it comes to product development, this is pretty straightforward. As a brand manager, as the owner of your company, you need to know how many products you have coming out, how many are being launched, how many are you purchasing, and you can start to get an understanding of how quickly things are going to change in your just total sales metrics, but also in a PPC. For example, we see in product development that we're going to, we purchased a product, in this week of, or the end of May, early June, right? Well, we know at some point that product is going to be launched, right? And what we see in our launch data here, and again, these are just fictitious numbers, but typically when you launch a product, what do we expect to happen? We expect revenue to go up. We expect ad spend to go up. We expect tacos to get worse, right? Generally, that's the expectation until that product can organically rank for keywords. So your job as a brand manager or even the owner, if you're doing this role, is to look at your launch metrics compared to how that changes things in PPC metrics to get a gut check on, hey, yes, our tacos has actually been trending up by 1 or 2%, but we can actually see down here that, well, we launched 2 products and right now they're just not ranking for keywords just yet. It's only been the first 2 or 3 weeks of the launch and we're okay with that. We're not going to go fire our PPC manager because our tacos went up temporarily. Okay. So we're connecting the dots. You have to start looking at data, looking at the scorecards to make those decisions or see what happens in the data so that you can make accurate data-driven decisions. And the same thing is true for SKU performance, right? So how many products do we have? How many unprofitable products do we have? This is a major red flag, right? If you have 3, 4, 5 unprofitable products in your business and your job as a brand manager is to, increase your contribution margin for the company, well, you have a big issue, right? You need to work with a SKU performance specialist to actually fix those things. All right. And as a brand owner, and this is more anecdotal, I guess, but the number of products being optimized, it costs money to make changes to your listings. It costs money to get new images. It costs money to hire a copywriter, photographer, all those things. So whenever you have products being optimized, you also need to keep in the mind or keep in the back of your head that, hey, there's an expense associated with this. And if I'm optimizing too many things at one time, I should see cash flow leaving my business. Okay. Excuse me. So that's how this would be connected to everything else that you're making decisions on. All right. And finally, sourcing. This one's heavy on the cash flow side of things. Buying products costs money. I think everyone is aware of this, right? But we need to start seeing a trend line of how often that happens. All right. One thing that I've noticed is a lot of people have no idea how much money they actually spend on inventory compared to what their books say. All right. When you're our accrual based books, it says your cost of goods sold is one thing, but the cash that left your business is another. Having a scorecard that tracks the actual cash flow out of your business will help you make much better decisions. It will tell you on average how much cash you need on hand to actually serve your inventory needs in your business. All right. So this particular scorecard I'm going to give to you, I think these are some of the top metrics that you need to look at. Me, Chris, the other leaders, we've worked to put these together in the most simplistic way we possibly can. All right. But if you will track these things and you will start looking at everything on a trend line over time, you're going to start to get a really good feel on how the decisions you make in your quarterly planning, monthly planning, and so on impacts the data. When you launch products, start paying attention to what the hell happens with the PPC data, right? You can't freak out every time your tacos goes up or every time your ACOS goes up while you're launching products, all right? You're going to panic and you're going to make really bad emotional decisions. So the main point on this is when you set up scorecards in your business, you need to have a scorecard per role, all right? Every role gets a scorecard. You don't necessarily have to be the one to create it. You do need to be able to understand it. You do need to be able to get the information out of it that you need to make decisions. But if you already have somebody in this role, whether it's a PPC or new product development or whatever, if you have somebody in this role, have them create the scorecard. What are they tracking? What are they measuring? And then all you have to do is go through their data points, say, okay, I care about this one, I care about this one, I care about this one, and move it to the summary tab. All right. So it doesn't have to be this big thing where you have to go set up all the scorecards. If you got people in your business, have them set up the scorecards, and then things that you actually care about, you can just move over to the summary tab. So it's very clear cut for what you need to actually look at and what you care about. All right. So as I said, I'm going to give you this scorecard that you're looking at right here, this summary page. This is basically the summarization of all of the things that matter for you as the brand owner on a day-to-day basis. And if you guys will fill this out on a weekly basis, have your team again fill this out. It's actually not that difficult to do. It will take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes max to actually fill out 1 week's of data. This will take you a very long way. So
and for Titans inside of Titan Tools, you can pull a lot of those weekly summaries out of the DST. So all the metrics there, the clicks, the tacos, the ACARS, etc. You know that we automatically track all of that stuff on a daily basis inside of Titan Tools Daily Sales Tracker, and that's readily available. And we are working. I know Justin's working towards building all of this into that as well. So yeah, that's easily kind of pulled through there for you from the DST. So we'll get that to you, and then inside Titan, guys, we'll get all of these scorecards through with all the supporting assets from everything this week. Justin, we're getting a bunch of questions around, can I just have my VA fill all this out? Should I do it? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think you should do any data entry ever, except for maybe what's on the owner scorecard. So, and that's only because you have to look at your P&L, and almost no one in your company should have access to that. But when it comes to, this scorecard here, there's no reason why all of these people in these roles shouldn't be filling it out. If you don't have someone dedicated to this, and yes, you're the one doing this role, you can still have a data or a VA find this information. I've had, before the daily sales tracker became automated in Titan Tools, I hired a VA for $10 an hour or whatever, just to fill in data, and it populated scorecards, just like this. This stuff isn't terribly difficult to find, right? PPC metrics come from the campaign manager. Product development, this you may have to do yourself if you're the one working on this and no one else is involved. Launching metrics, a VA can find this out. You tell them what products are being launched, and you have them compile that data separately from the overall PPC metrics, right? SKU performance, same thing. If you're the one working on it, then you're going to be filling this out. If you have someone else working on it, they will fill this out. Same with sourcing. You can even have a sourcing agent do this. I've worked with an external sourcing agent for years. It was like the best hire ever made. In 2018, and she filled this out. In fact, her scorecard that she kept for herself was thousands of rows, thousands. I didn't care about all of it. I only needed to know a few things, and she would just plug in this data for me on a weekly basis. So hopefully that answers that question. Should be pretty straightforward here. You shouldn't be doing these, especially long-term yourself. Your team should be doing this on your behalf.
Yeah, getting some good feedback in the comment box here. We've got Henrik saying this sheets and template in the sessions alone are literally worth much more than the entire Titan Mastermind fee. The entire course is priceless from Marseille. Yeah, I think people are liking this, Justin. It really does give you that clarity. And do you know what I find with scorecarding? And I've done this for many years now. It removes anxiety. It removes the mental load of having to remember everything that's going on. And every week you think, right, where am I? It removes that mental load of asking, where am I? And where are we in this process? Because you've got a dashboard that you can open up and just find that answer out for what matters very quickly. And for Titans, inside of Titan Tools, that we've got the 7-day trend analysis report as well. That's another great report for the same kind of analysis, looking up over a period of time at a SKU level. This then gives you the kind of total brand performance level of all SKUs, which is a really healthy position to be in, because it also answers the question of, do I have the resource to expand right now? Or how efficient am I running right now? How can I invest more into this SKU, into optimization, because this one is performing? And it really starts giving you that bird's eye view of the brand and the business, and allowing you to go from working in the business to working on the business, which is the common theme this week. So Justin, as we finish up then here on scorecards, Any other comments here on onboarding and measuring success before we jump over into action items?
No, I think tomorrow we're really going to try to summarize everything for you guys. This is such a huge topic, right? Managing people, bringing people on, figuring out how to onboard them, figuring out how to offboard them, and even just the day-to-day operations in your business. You know, it's a lot. You're learning a lot. And this week has been primarily around working on your business. The vast majority of you don't usually work on your business, usually work in your business. So take a breath, take a step back. Don't get overwhelmed by just the magnitude of everything that could be done in your business. As Chris said earlier, you know, use that assessment. I can't remember what the name of it was, but like, you know, prioritize what is going to have the biggest impact in your business. What's going to have the biggest payoff, right? What's the least risky, right? Focus on those things first. And over time, your business will start to see the benefits of that. I want to be really clear. Your business is always going to be broken. There's always going to be something wrong with it. That's okay. That's normal. None of us have a business that is perfect, right? A perfect business is a closed business. All right. So don't think that you can have this, you know, picture perfect thing that's always working all the time. Things break. As your business grows, so do your problems, and that's okay. So just keep that in mind and don't get overwhelmed.
Wait, Justin, I have a really good quote for you. Ready? It's from Big
right.
Smalls. Mo money, mo problems. Okay.
There we go.
Amen.
So let's go through action items for today before we move on to Q&A. And then for my non-Titans in the room, Athena and I have a very special invitation for you here in a sec. So stick around. We're going to do action items Q&A, and then I'm going to invite you to hang behind for something very special. So Justin, Chris, let's open up action items and get through the assignments for today, because I'm excited for tomorrow. We're going to really bring this home tomorrow and wrap everything up so you can go away and smash 2023. Right, let's talk about it. Where are the action items?
Chris, do you have those?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you were
that's
pulling it
radio
up.
presenter voice.
All right.
We'll be right back after
the break.
Wait, Chris, can you do it after these messages? We'll be right back. Do it.
No, I need someone else to do that for me. I'm the guy with the catchphrase. Someone needs to think of my catchphrase.
All right.
So let's get
All
through
right.
them then.
Okay, all right. So today we're going to have you guys basically create the onboarding document for the role that you chose yesterday. So the best way to do this is in Asana, and you guys are going to get the template to use, and all you have to do is basically fill it in for that role, and fill in as much as you possibly can, and then post it in the Facebook group, and we'll give you feedback on it.
There we go. So write and onboard the onboarding document for the role that you want to hire. So everything that Chris walked through here today, and then go ahead and post it in the Facebook group and compare your onboarding document to other members. Now, with that as well, as extra bonus points, if you fill out the owner's scorecard for the last 4 weeks, you can leave, if you're sensitive to the P&L section, you can leave the sensitive information out if you want to. But I do believe in ownership over this stuff because it kind of gives you clarity over it. You'll see me posting a lot of stuff on social media with like the full numbers. And go ahead and post a screenshot of that in the group as well, because that's where we can give you some really actionable feedback. Because with the experience around this table, our leaders, our mentors, and fellow Titans in the group, you can tell a lot about a business from those numbers. And you can kind of call out strategic levers that need to be pulled to improve it. So for extra bonus points and for tomorrow's prize pool that Athena is going to be leading tomorrow with our big prize draw, that will get you extra bonus points. So go ahead and, because it's not written down, I'm going to repeat it verbally. Fill in the scorecard that Justin is giving you, the brand manager scorecard. And go ahead and fill that out and put that into the...
Yeah. As an extra bonus, you guys, I'm going to give you a translation of Dan terms. Lever is a lever, okay? So if you guys are curious what the heck he's saying lever, you know?
Lever.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean specifically the brand management scorecard, not the owner's one, the brand management scorecard, sorry. That's the one I want you to go and fill out and put into the group, because we can tell a lot with those numbers and we can point you in the right direction in some feedback in the comments.
They really want my glossary of Dan terms.
Yeah, translate in English.
Dan Dictionary.
Oh, I love this. Was it the age-old argument? Okay, so let's go over into Q&A, guys. Let's jump straight into Q&A. So, anonymous attendee says, Amazon permissions for sub-users on the role documents would be amazing. Yeah, you could include those for sure. The role documents we covered that yesterday. We covered the role document yesterday. You got given the PPC manager role document yesterday, and inside of Titan lives the role document for every single role on that org chart. They will be published the beginning of next week. Nanette says, what integration app are you using with Asana and Slack and Google? I have the free version of Asana, trying to figure out how to make it look like the example. That example was just a basic template with additional fields. It wasn't, there's no integration going on there, is there, Chris?
No, it's not. That's just basic.
We run a bunch of automation with Zapier, but then you're starting to get into obviously Zapier licenses and fees and stuff. But for the size of the businesses we're talking about here with 2 or 3 people, you can start automating, but there's no need to. It's just a basic template, right?
Yep.
Steve, who and how in your company handles reference requests from past employees, particularly when they're fired? Great question.
I'm always honest. I mean,
well.
You can't give a glowing reference for someone that you fired. I mean, yeah.
I'll always support the person in their strengths and lead heavily and focus towards their strengths. But as Chris said yesterday when we talked about using a reference interview for more senior roles, you want to be asked what are their weaknesses, and there you want to be honest because you gave that person the feedback. But I always lead with their strengths and shine them in a good light while answering questions honestly is kind of my approach.
Why would they use it as a reference if you fired them?
It happens. It does happen.
We had that too, and we were just honest. We said they were great at the beginning, and they kind of trailed off, and so we let them go. We were just honest about it. Why would you use me as a reference? I said the
truth. No, wait. Guys, isn't it a thing where you have a resume and then you'd say where you used to work and then people check?
Yeah, but
they don't have to put my name down, like contact information. Yeah,
I mean, I've let people go that were great, like a social media manager, where I was like, you're really good, but it's just not right for my business, and we just had to reduce the size. So I think in that case, maybe, but
that's
I agree.
You guys imagine if they did that on a dating app? That'd be so creepy.
References, all my exes.
There's a really good question here. Since
I still love him. Yeah.
Richard asked, he said, what do you use to monitor hours worked for workers on an hourly wage?
So we've used a few apps over the years, and we've never really done it for this reason. We've always measured time specifically at the VA level to measure efficiency so that I understand how long does a task take, because then I can measure my resource and plan my resource demand based on what I want to achieve if I know how long something takes on average. But there are apps that integrate with Asana really well. Clockify is one. But if you go to the Asana app library and search time tracking, there are a bunch of apps that natively integrate with Asana. And then all you do is train your team to start clock, stop clock. It will send you a timesheet at the end of the week or the month, whatever the cycle is that you set up. You can quickly validate it and make sure that it's not being taken advantage of. And then you can use that for payment as well. There are more advanced systems where it actually records their desktop and does all this crazy stuff. And you can
Big Brother though. That's so Big Brother, and I hate it.
Yeah, but no, measuring's good. One for obviously accommodating hourly rates, and then 2, measuring efficiency in the business. Okay, next one. Tina, scorecards should be tracked by brands, right? As we have 2 brands inside one legal entity. Yes, Tina, I would be measuring those as 2 separate brands because you're affecting the outcome of those 2 separate brands separately. And if you come to exit one of them and keep one of them, then you've got all that data. And hopefully you've set them up in 2 separate Seller Central accounts. We're not talking about exit this week, but if you want to set yourself up for an exit and a clean exit, you will want to set up 2 subsidiary LLCs, 2 subsidiary Seller Central accounts. The subsidiaries can be owned by a parent, but you want a clean accounting structure and a clean business structure to then be able to sell those entities and do the asset transfer. If you start getting into commingled books and stuff, it can get real weird if a buyer only wants one of the brands, because it's not about what you're selling, it's about what they're buying. And if they only want one of the brands, that can start putting people off, and because it's too messy, too complicated. Elaine, will scorecard templates be available after the webinar? Yes. So the brand management one will be included with the resources today. The full scorecards, guys, will be published inside the Titan next week for our Titan. So once you get into Titan, you'll see those in there. Roberto, Justin, and Chris, do you use Asana also for the annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly goals task that you showed in day 2? Roberto, you're a smart cookie. Yes, we do.
You just call Roberto a cookie?
A smart cookie. Smart cookie. Is that not an American thing?
No, it is.
Okay, cool.
That
just has another Titan meaning.
Coming from you. Okay, bye.
Okay. So yes, Roberto. So whilst the Google Sheets that we've put out for you this week are incredibly simple and incredibly effective, because often sophistication is what can we take away from process to get the end result? What's the path of least resistance? We do manage this inside of Asana. So what we've done is replicated that sheet into a project in Asana, and then all stakeholders input into that project. It's a bit finicky to set up. And you can start getting into layered projects that all feed into each other. But if you're more of an advanced user with Asana or ClickUp, one of these platforms, you can do it. Justin, you used to use Airtable, didn't you? That was the one you used to use for it.
Honestly, I like Airtable because it's just a spreadsheet-based platform. So it looks just like the spreadsheet, just with more functionality.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you can do it. Asana's great. Next one, Victoria, how do you conduct a daily meeting, and how do you do it if have staff working in different time zones? So Chris, we went over the daily meeting agenda. Was it 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, Victoria, what day was that? Was that day 2?
I think it was day 1.
Day one. It feels like a lifetime ago already. So Victoria, go back and watch day 1, watch the recording, see the agendas there, because you've got all of that in the resource pack. In terms of the time zones, this is the benefit of hiring on the same time zone, if not locally. And there's a huge compound effect from this. If you're only meeting once a week, you're only affecting change in your business 52 times a year. If you're meeting daily, assuming a 5-day week and a 50-week working year, then you're affecting change 255. There you go, 250 times in that year's period. The compound effect of affecting change 250 times versus 52, or if you're only meeting every other week versus 25, is massive. So there lies the question of, do you hire internationally for those key management roles or not? Do you hire in different time zones? There is so much benefit to hiring same time zone. And then locally, if you can hire locally and you have a daily stand-up physically, or virtual daily stand-up and at least a weekly physical, again, the compound effect of that commitment is unmeasurable, to be honest, in my experience. We invest thousands into these team meetings because we know the compound effect of getting them together. So we do cross time zones, but it can be costly to do so. Next one, Victoria. Are there any scorecards you review on a daily basis? Justin?
So people don't like to hear this, but I don't really look at that much. So that company meeting template I showed you guys earlier, that's about it. So this one, use it on your daily meeting, and it will just accumulate the data you need. So you should generally be able to tell if something's wrong in your business based upon revenue and number of units sold, right? If you normally sell $5,000 a day and one day you sell 2,000, you probably have an issue and you need to go look at something. But if people have this like perception, you need to go look at all these things all the time, every single day, and it's just not true. You can get the summary for the week. You can start to see how things stack up week over week, even on a daily basis, and then month over month, same thing. So I really don't look at that much. I know a lot of the Titan leaders don't really look at that much either. Whatever you kind of input into this, daily template here, you can use that. You can add columns to this if you want. If there's other things you want to look at. But honestly, I start with revenue and units sold. If all that checks out, then I'm good.
Yeah, and once you get your alerts and stuff set up, it's more just the maintenance, which is generally delegated into a team member anyway. And then the only daily stats really is if you're diving into some sort of SKU optimization, then you're in the DST, you're looking at SKU specific stats, but it's more reactive work than it is kind of daily checks. All right, one last one before we transition here is Joe says, question for Chris, can you please wrap up the meeting by saying, oh yeah?
Like the Kool-Aid man. I know exactly what he's talking about. Oh yeah. 90s kids, 80s kids remember that commercial.
But Chris, bring
I
up
think
the
that's for the after these. Do you guys know what I'm saying about after these messages? We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the announcer or is that like somebody else?
No, that's Saturday morning cartoons.
Saturday morning cartoon.
That's where you take all the couch pillows, you stack them way up so that you're sitting on the very top. And if there's ever a break,
Animaniacs.
you run to the bathroom, because if you hear that after these messages, we'll be right back, you run. You don't walk.
You got 2
That's
minutes.
not confirmed.
Yeah. So Chris, will you just bring up the action items? Let's just summarize them once more. And then for my sellers that aren't currently in Titan, we've had a bunch of DMs and emails and questions over the last few days kind of saying, well, what is Titan? What's included? How does it help us? For those of you that are interested, would you like to hang behind? Would you like to stick around here for, say, 20 minutes or so and learn more about how Titan will help you accelerate your growth in 2023, execute this plan that you've put together this week, and compound your success beyond what you could ever achieve alone, and learn of a special reward and offer that Athena and I chatted about today, and we want to make available to you as a kind of acknowledgement of your commitment this week for investing time in yourself, money in yourself, investing and showing up to ultimately your future success and actually doing the work. There's so many people that talk about being successful, but there's very few that do it. And you guys have really proven that this week. So we want to acknowledge that and really kind of spend some time with you. So if that's something you'd like to do, type hell yes in the chat box and let me know. And Athena and I are going to hang back here and take you through a few bits. Go on, Athena.
This is like you're at a Rolling Stone concert and you just got invited backstage. So it's like a really big deal, guys, just so you know.
And then for my Titan members, I want you to go away, get these action items complete, post them in the group so we can go ahead and get that feedback done. So if you're going to go away and get the action items done, go ahead and do that. And for those that aren't currently part of this magical world we call Titan and want to hang back for a few minutes here to, one, understand more about Titan, we'll have a chat, you can ask questions, and then also see what we have in store for you for your commitment this week in the form of a very special offer that we want to walk through. Then stick around in the Zoom call. If you're seeing this on Facebook, make sure you click the link to Zoom. So I'm going to go ahead and stop streaming here now into the Facebook group, and we're going to stick around, me and Athena, and we're going to have a chat here. For everyone else, go away, go get these action items done.
Don't stop yet. I have to say something. Okay, so guys, the magic of Titan are the humans. And if you look at all these beautiful faces that have been here, this is day 4. They're answering your questions. They're just so brilliant. And I look around here and I just look at just the magical brain power that all of these guys have. So I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge all of them because they're really the bestest there is. So thanks so much for being here and what you guys do.
Yeah, massively deserved. Okay, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream here into the Facebook. Get these action items done. We'll post the resources here in a second.